Healing with Human Connection, where we have encouraging conversations about tough topics such as substance abuse, drug addiction, and mental health issues for those in the Northwest Indiana area. Our hope is to share information that will guide you to resources that can help you change your life so that you can live the life you were meant to live. Check out our website, www.healingwithconnection.com, to find a full transcript of today's conversation, along with a list of any resources or links mentioned in this episode. Enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Jeanne Cannon and this is Lisa Scheller and our guest Anna Williams. So excited to be with you today. I am actually a therapist and a life coach here in Michigan City, work with couples and women's issues and some individuals. Lisa is a life coach and author of From Fear to Faith.
Yeah. So
it's an outstanding story of recovery from substance abuse, from alcoholism, a family thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. And of course, Anna is a perinatal case manager with Northwest Health. And I've known Anna for a while professionally, and she is outstanding at what she does.
Thank you.
You are. You're extremely passionate.
Thank you.
And of course, our goal here with Healing with Human Connection is to talk about the resources in the community with regard to mental health, with regard to substance abuse, and talk about the topics to try to help our listeners understand them more and how can they get help. And Lisa, maybe just talk a bit. Lisa's book is a family situation where her husband is recovering, and to hear the stories in this book are fabulous because it helps anyone listening who's struggling with substance abuse know what to do and how to understand it better. Do you want to say just a few words about it, Lisa?
Yeah, so absolutely, Jeanne. So when we started to think about putting our book together about 3.5 years ago, it was just more to be a resource for people, to let them know they do not walk this life alone and they don't need to for addiction. And now, 10 years later, after we've kind of come over the hump, that there are so many resources out there that people can have and get the help that they need. So, we want to tell our story. It's basically set up where I tell my story and then Hans tells his story about what was going on during those times, and then our girls say a little bit about it too. So we just want to give people hope, and we want people to know that we are your neighbors next door that went through this, and there's many people struggling, and it is not going to go away, and we can just be there to support each other.
Great. Well, Lisa, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just such a fabulous story and book, and so helpful for those in need.
Yes, absolutely.
So Anna, Miss Anna, so excited that you're here.
Yes.
It's so great to see you
Thank
again.
you for having me here.
You're welcome. And for some people like me who remember old LaPorte Hospital, can you just explain Northwest and what, so people know in case they don't?
Yeah, it's definitely changed over the years too, but a lot of people are familiar with it as LaPorte Hospital. Now it's Northwest. So I'm actually in the Women's Health Clinic, which is in the same parking lot as the hospital. So more the doctor's office setting, but then, it all collaborates together too. So right there with the new hospital downtown. It's beautiful. The new building is very beautiful. So
we had all 3 children at LaPorte.
Oh, you did? Oh,
and it was such a wonderful experience. And I know a lot of people still work there.
Yes, it's always fun hearing those stories. There's some nurses, that have been there their whole career. And I'm doing my grad school hours at the hospital now, and there's a few case managers that I've met that have been there a long time. It's been their first job and they're still there. Right. So those stories are fun.
Yeah, well, great.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about you and your work history. And you just mentioned you're working on your master's in social work.
Yes, so I moved here just over a year ago. I'm actually from Holland, Michigan. So, I started out, I guess a little background, a little before that. So my family was a foster family my entire life. So that's, it's kind of ironic, of course, when you're a kid, you always say, I'll never do what I grew up experiencing. Sure. I always said, I would never do social work. My family was a foster family my whole life, but it usually doesn't go those ways, So I got my bachelor's in psychology. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, but I knew I'd go to grad school. And then I moved back to Holland and I worked in ABA therapy with children with autism for a few years. And I loved that. That was one of my favorite things that I've ever done. But it's, I was pretty burnt out from it at the same time. So when I moved here, I had the opportunity to take this job. So now I do mainly case management services for OB patients. It's a grant through the Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte. So they were very generous and funded this position with Northwest Health. So so now I work under both Northwest and the Healthcare Foundation, or through both, I guess, and meet with OB patients. Ideally, I would meet with every new OB patient that we have, any high-risk patients or anyone just struggling with common issues like anxiety, depression, anything like that, our substance abuse patients, and connect them to anything that could be helpful. So So it's been great, and it's been really great to see, I'm not from LaPorte, but to kind of dive in and have to figure everything out in LaPorte, and I work in our Michigan City office too. So within LaPorte County, you'd have to figure out all the resources, but to navigate that and have people be really open to helping me has been wonderful. So
great. So just first of all, that's exciting background, and the fact that you're going further with your master's in counseling and social work will be such a plus for your present job and or whatever you do in the future. But just so people know, tell us a little bit about Northwest Hospital and the variety of programs generally.
So of course, when you think of hospital, you think of medical, and that definitely exists. But there's also the case management department, who they help with mostly discharge planning. So that's anyone who's in the hospital, they meet with any new patient, no matter, they don't have to have any risk factors. That's anyone who's admitted or, in observation, they're meeting with them, and just determining if they have any needs for discharge, making sure they're safe to go home. A lot of really great things like that. And then, as I mentioned, mostly my experience comes from the OB office. So that is more, I guess, pregnancy and women's, programs and things like that. But there are a lot of other things as well, as far as connection to me or anyone else that they can do to make sure that everyone has a holistic, all their needs met.
That is such a great thing, because I think back in the day, we didn't look at, as you say, Anna, the holistic person upon discharge, whether it's a new mom. You have children, oh my gosh, you get them home, it's like, what?
We always say they don't come with a manual, so we have to deal with whatever comes along, and everybody's situation is different. So
or any patient in the hospital that may have a substance abuse or a mental health issue. It sounds like the hospital's philosophy now is let's help you deal with that.
I think so, and I mean, of course, it's tricky in a medical setting because you're there to, meet people's immediate medical needs. But I mean, over the past year, I've seen just the huge benefit of doing more than just the medical needs, and how that benefits the whole person. So, I
think that's really important when it comes to healthcare, is that, we always, or in your field, see the people when they're sick. But how about if we be proactive and then trying to meet some of those needs ahead of time, educate them on things that they don't know, so that it can prevent some of the things that do happen.
Medical and otherwise, I think it all ties together.
So,
I agree for sure.
So if someone's listening, and because our program is providing information on substance abuse and recovery and mental health, what specifically would you say? You've told us a little bit. You're giving for discharges, you're helping them, but what resources does Northwest have to help them?
So, we don't have a therapist at our hospital or anything like that, so we do a lot of referring out, but that's where, those community connections come in so handy, and really, I think, knowing what's in the community. And like I mentioned, we have case managers who have been there for years. They know all about the community, and even someone like me who's newer, I think that's where learning those resources are important. So we would do a lot of referring out. Our HealthLink office is right behind us, so we work with HealthLink quite a bit as well. So being able to collaborate with them, and they have, you may be familiar too, I'm not sure, they have their, it's called the MIRT, M-I-R-T team. So they do, they can do the peer recovery programs.
Recovery coaching.
Which is, I love. I've used that for a few of my moms before. And just anything else in the community, I guess it depends on need, obviously. But specifically substance abuse, we would use that. Just see what else go from
and
there.
I think that's
So-
important, because when you make that connection with that patient or that client, then you give them the resources so that they're not out having to search for that. You can give them somebody that you feel confident to provide.
Oh yeah, and I mean, to that note, I always say to my moms, you know, or my patients when I'm meeting with them, they'll say like, I am so embarrassed that I couldn't find this on my own. You know, I tried to get, for 6 months, I tried to get connected to a therapist and there was none, and you know, or all these things. And I'll always say, if it was difficult for me as a social worker to get you connected, it had to have been impossible for you to do this on your own, or, you know, nearly impossible.
But if they have that hub, where they know that they can come to, and they only have to make a one call, and they can just say, you know, I really need this help with this and that, and you can connect them, I think it just relieves a lot of that, the barriers.
Yeah, oh yeah, and those barriers. And I think the follow-up is probably, you know, if I ever had to highlight the most important part of my job, I say I think it's the follow-up, because
the growth
and you know, giving someone a phone number only really goes so far. So you know, following up and seeing when they have an appointment, and if they have an appointment, and if there was a reason they didn't make an appointment, and going
kind of like a little coach on the side.
Yeah, right, for sure.
Right. Well, and I think you bring up a great point, is anyone listening, if you're struggling yourself with addictions or mental health issues, there's a lot of reasons why people don't go for help.
Right.
And even if they want to go for help, as you said, your one patient client it's hard.
Yeah.
And there's also so many different types of help. I mean, there's individual help, there's group help, there's treatment centers. There's AA meetings, you know, what's best for the particular person, right, Anna?
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that comes into play specifically with substance abuse is that LaPorte's not small, you know, geographically, but it functions very much like a small town. So that's something I've experienced a lot in smaller towns, where, you know, people don't want to seek help in smaller towns sometimes because they feel like everybody knows them, you know. Yeah, sometimes there's that shame associated, but you know, I wish, again, we would kind of change the tone a little, that rather than the shame associated with that, it should just be celebrated that you're getting what you need. So,
well, that is a great way to look at it, especially because that's why we came together to do this podcast, is that we want people to not feel that they should be shamed or guilty, because a lot of people go through this and we're just not unaware of it, you know.
Of course, yeah.
Right. And the irony is that seemingly normal people are affected. We have alcoholism in our family. Lisa had alcoholism in her family. You know, it's so common that once you raise your hand and call someone or read about the type of help, you'll see that it's much more prevalent.
Well, no one's immune to the issues of the world, right? You know, it doesn't exist. We just hide it. So
and it will come out somewhere.
It will,
right? So it comes out in whatever pocket it does. So.
Right. So.
But I think, especially you're younger, really, Anna, you know, the social media aspect makes it appear that everyone has it together. You know, I think there's a lot of new societal pressure on appearing that you have it together. When we know, and you know, because of the work you do, that it's normal not to have it together.
Right.
I mean, what do you say to people that are embarrassed or scared, especially in a small town?
So,
I mean, I have people outside our office that don't even park here because they're afraid someone will see their car.
Yeah, which is so interesting. Yeah. I mean, yes, obviously I'm young. You mentioned me being young, but, you know, as a part of that, I do think that my generation has changed a little bit in that way. You know, it's more common, and which is good. I think it's more common to seek mental health resources. You know, I mean, more people my age go to therapy and talk about that. So that has changed a little. Yeah, it is a great thing. I think it just depends on the topic, and I do think that substance abuse, and then when I'm working with a lot of my young moms who genuinely need parenting help for generational things that they've experienced, you know, there can be a little more nervousness around that, but like we mentioned, the connections, I think that's where being the person to kind of make that first connection for them, push
the bridge.
A gentle push, make the bridge, you know, kind of a gentle little push in the right direction. Or making it simple, honestly. So, you know, if I have someone that I know needs XYZ, let's say it is treatment for, you know, substance abuse of some kind, it's going to be much easier if I say, here's 3 options, you know, so let's talk about these 3 options and then you pick one and we'll get you connected. Rather than, you know, here's here's one thing or a bullet point list, or, you know, doing what we can to try to give people some autonomy to choose but still,
Great.
still feel comfortable with their choice, but still doing that.
And how about, for someone listening, because of course this comes up for all of us when we're dealing with
of course.
individuals looking for help with substance abuse or mental health, is the cost involved. Can you just talk about that a little bit, Anna? That there's so many different ways to go about it.
There is. So I mean, I've had people, say I can't go to a treatment center, I can't afford it, or things like that, and it does get tricky. I wouldn't lie and say it's always easy, but that's where things like HealthLink and community resources are available, and they're very cost effective, if not free, to the individuals who are accessing them. And HealthLink is mostly Medicaid based, but that's not the only demographic. It's you can go to them and find out what's available in our community no matter what. So, and HealthLink is just the example of many, there's a lot of places in our community. So if anyone is uncertain of the cost, I would always say, just reach out and go from there, so.
It's a beginning, and I think for those listening, to educate yourself about what is available. And having worked in treatment centers myself, there are a lot of different types of treatment centers, and there are good treatment centers, just like therapists, and not such good treatment centers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So doing, the work that you do, Anna, is so good. The groundwork and the investigative work of saying, this is what's happening now, today, November 2022, in the world of treatment in this community. So what you do is priceless.
Oh, thank you.
Really.
So I mean, obviously there's a lot of places too, but Swanson Center, all these other places, but I would always say, just don't be afraid to just make the first call, to make that first initial punch and then go from there, and there are people that are willing to help. So
well, and Lisa, you and your husband, I mean, our coaches, just to have a conversation with you could change someone's life, which is free.
And just to pretty much let people know that if they go to one place and it doesn't work out, to not get discouraged that there's another place, because everybody goes through their journey at their own, in their own way. Not it's one size fits all. It's not one size fits all. So some people get a lot out of going to AA meetings, and some people might just be good from having a one-on-one conversation. So it's just what fits so that they can keep moving in the right direction.
Right. Absolutely.
And you bring up a good point, which is it may take a lot of attempts in asking. Like, I can see, Anna, you would be so great. Trust is a big issue for people. See, but you have such a great personality as far as how you deal with people, that they would trust you.
I hope. I know it's tricky, and that's the other thing too. I mean, it's a lot for someone to, if I'm going in someone's room and talking to them, if they're at the doctor's office and I'm going in to talk to them about, you tested positive for these drugs and their DCS will be involved when you deliver your baby. That's a sensitive topic. So, I always talk to our nurses and everything else about, and they're all so great. They're all on board with supporting the patient however they can. But
and that is awesome, because again, back to the shame, the guilt.
Right.
Who's going to judge me when they hear this? Absolutely. And they just go back in. So it's great that the people realize that we are here to help them. We're not here to.
Absolutely. And I really do believe all of our OB providers and our nursing staff really do have that mentality, that we're there to support you and we want you to be successful. And, even though this happened and it was unfortunate, but that's why, I always try to have very open conversations, kind of going back to that trust. So, DCS is involved when a mom, tests positive during pregnancy, but I always like to make sure that that's very clear before they get to the hospital. I never want there to be surprises, and I want her to have as many connections as she can if she's open to them, and maybe she's not, but I think I've found that I gain a lot of trust with the moms that I work with by being open with them. It's not very often that someone would be upset with me for being honest with them. They appreciate the honesty, and maybe a lot of the time they weren't expecting me to be that open and honest with them about it. So I think it's kind of a give and take.
And the irony, would you say, that let's say someone's using drugs and or alcohol, and they have the baby, and DCS has to be called. that is not the end of the world.
No, yeah.
In most cases, they're not going to take your
Right,
children away. They want to work with
absolutely.
you and help you get help.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the, well, brings up another point. One of the main things is just understanding these resources that have sort of, these stereotypes surrounding them, because it's like, that's just sort of going in the room and saying, we will call. I want to make it clear that we will call. I don't want you to be surprised or feel anything like that. But, they're there to help you too. Everyone is here everyone is on your team rooting for you. So I think sometimes young moms, especially when I'm working with them, they have these assumptions about different programs, but
it's scary.
Yeah, it's scary. And I understand, I probably would too if I was in their position, but just that communication is so important. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
lastly, any advice you would have for anyone listening, be it young moms or pregnant, expecting moms, or anyone struggling with mental health? Would you have any last advice?
I mean, I would say something, just kind of a overarching, like, just don't be afraid to mention something, because a lot of the time I go in the room and I do these general intakes, and then that's when these problems come out, and that's great that those are discovered then, but don't be afraid to tell your doctor if you're struggling with anxiety or, these different things. And don't be afraid to be your own advocate a little bit. We're here to advocate for you, but I think that's the biggest thing, don't be afraid to speak up for what you need to. And it is out there in our county. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but there's actually so many rich resources in our county. So
wonderful, wonderful advice, Anna. And it does my heart good when I'm at the doctor now, and they will say, if you had depression, and it's on there. Listen, back in the day, no one would have asked for that. So your advice of don't be afraid. Just get educated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for everything that you do, Anna.
It's been great.
So Anna Williams, again, Northwest, I want to say hospital, it's called Northwest Health. If you're interested in speaking to her, you can look her up under the Northwest Health website. And of course, Lisa, thank you always.
And you too, Jeanne. It's just great to be connected with the resources and just provide that. And as we've talked about, educating the community and letting people know that there are resources and not to be afraid to use those resources, because that's what they're there for. And that's what the people want to be doing to help them. So.
Right. Yes. And you're welcome to call any of us. Cassie, of course, thank you for Cassie, our tech gal behind the scenes. And we wish you all a wonderful week. I think underlying is what Anna is saying is be kind to yourself. Take care of yourself. And if you have an issue, there's nothing wrong with you because you have an issue, but to ask for help for your sake. And you can call any one of us or Google anything and try to begin the step of finding out. So we wish you well and have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, let us know by leaving a comment or review and sharing with a friend. All resources mentioned today and a full transcript of this episode can be found by going to our website, www.healingwithconnection.com. A video of this recording can be found on our YouTube channel, and the audio podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts.